For more recipes, conversations, and DIYs for kids, hit the bell icon to never miss a video from Kidsstoppress.com.
Hello everyone, welcome to KSP TV. Today we have with us a very accomplished and an educational and sports enthusiastic family with us. We have Fatima Agarkar and Ajit Agarkar with us. So thank you both. I'm going to, obviously both of them need no introduction, but I'm going to still ask them. When I was given this job, I thought it was really hard, so I'm going to leave it to them and sum themselves up in 140 characters.
Been in education. I'm actually from the corporate world, moved to education, possibly because I love kids and hoping to create more opportunities for many more. I have an 11-year-old who keeps me busy, so I'm a mom, a passionate, enthusiastic wife of a cricketer, now golfer.
I'm Ajit Agarkar. I used to play cricket a little bit. I wish I'd played golf a little bit before. Avid golfer, a very proud dad, and very, very excited to be here. So, thank you for having me.
Biggest Manchester United.
Oh yeah, of course.
What's that calling that got you back to education?
To be really honest, it was for the fact that I think as a country, we have a lot to achieve. There's been progress world over, and I'm talking about small towns and large metros as well, globally. I think the India story needs a disruption. I think the India story needs many like us who are passionate about saying we need to rethink, we need to redesign, and I'm selfishly inclined because I have an 11-year-old as well, because what we're doing for the future of these kids is something we know very little about, and that's been my pitch forever. For the last 10 years, we've created jobs, and we did well as kids. Today, Mansi, whether it's you've set up your own company, whether it's Gitika and I co-founding ours, we've done it, and we think that our education has given us everything. Unfortunately, the world is changing so fast. We're not going to be able to predict what the future is, and my worry is, unless we rethink, we're not going to equip those kids with those skills. I came back to create that disruption, and I came back to say, hey, listen, let's think again to make sure that kid has a lot more fun, learns at the same time, but it's not about knowledge. It's about now knowing what to do with it.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, we've spoken about it, but there's been no application.
No, I think you brought out a very valid point, right? We're talking about schools that have 100 years of legacy, and we're talking about the best brands in the business in terms of schools and school rankings, etc. But if we don't have that sort of application, or parents today actually thinking that, hey, I did this sort of education and I turned out just fine. I hear that so often from parents, and that's their basis of evaluation for education for their children. So how does that, you experience a lot of that at as well?
Totally. Parents, and we do a lot of parenting workshops as well. So one of the things that sticks is that, yes, there is a brand, and brands have to be valued because there is proven track record and legacy. But Mati, I'm coming back to the point that the future does not belong to the legacy alone. The future belongs to those who will take those risks. And perhaps those systems that exist don't allow children to take risks. Theatre, sports needs to come in, and I'm just going to be very humbled by this thought that I remember when Ajit was part of the World Cup and they lost, and it was a great team on paper. And when they came back, one of the things that we discussed was the fact that you can have a great team on paper, but you still lose. That means that there's no guarantee.
Absolutely.
And if there is no guarantee, what skills are we equipping the kids with? So my worry is, let's do something a little more than what we have done. Possibly because we are in a better space today in terms of an industry than we ever were.
Right. Do you feel there's a change, like Fatma's trying to create that in the education space, and of course that sports inclusive. But do you feel like in the sporting fraternity there has been a dimensional change from the time that you started unto what your son is going through now?
There's definitely been a change, but I don't think there's enough yet that you see. It's I've been sort of following his little progress in school, and I think there needs to be a lot more done. And it's not about 8 or 9-year-old or 10-year-olds deciding whether they want to be a Tendulkar tomorrow or a Ronaldo. It's about playing sport. I mean, I did start playing cricket because I had some great aspirations at age 12. You just play the sport because you enjoy it, and then as you get better at it, you know what you need to do. All things fall into place, but it's about getting out there, and unless opportunities are provided, it's always harder for kids to sometimes do it on their own. As much as it's changed now from the time that I played.
Fatima, you mentioned that, when you were in conversation, you mentioned that how these legacy schools and how schools are, and how education need to really change, right? How does CA want to bring about that change, and what's your strategy to bring about that change? Because really, I mean, while we as parents are really aspirational to teach and enroll our kids into future learning schools, but it's always going to have, that vision of a school principal or a head is what's going to drive it.
We're going to have more schools where they may not find the teachers in the system to be able to manage the needs. So teacher training therefore becomes imperative, because one is you're going to have to attract teachers from outside the industry, which is actually a good thing. Kind of like what Wendy Corp did with Teach for America. She created a disruption and saying, hey, listen, if you're so good, come and teach, because that's the generation we're going to put out there in industry. So we're going to have to think out of the box, and that's what CA does. CA is saying we want to attract talent from outside the industry. We also have to upgrade the existing teacher training skills. Because honestly, Mansi, that's going to be the differentiator between schools. It's easy to duplicate infrastructure, very easy to duplicate technology, very easy to duplicate lesson plans. What's going to be different? The difference is how you teach.
Do you think that all the international or progressive boards that we have in the country are equipped with the right teachers? Because we're all looking at the school, we're looking at the name, we're looking at the board. Are we looking at the teachers? Do parents even have a choice?
So, very honestly, parents are going to have to make certain decisions, and it is based on the brand, the board, and that actually puts you in a good space because there's a validation from the board, there are audits, etc. But yeah, I will say that the teachers perhaps need a little more help, a little more support to become more complete all-rounders. Again, cricketer's wife talking, where it's just not about functional knowledge. It's about that pastoral nature. It's about, you've actually become a mini CEO.
I think parents are just treating play schools and preschools and higher schools as just stepping stones into the other, and then eventually into a good college.
Mansi, today there was a report of some 56,000 preschools, and the education minister has made a comment that it must be a regulated sector because there are too many of them, and parents, well-meaning, will go in again for a brand that they think meets all the criteria. There has to be some amount of change because preschools are not stepping stones to high schools. It's not, you're not gearing these kids up for some admissions. Those are the foundational years. And if kids don't play, if kids are not thinking, if kids are not absorbing information, you've lost the important bit of the foundation. Then it's a scaffolding effect. Then these kids come into high schools, and you're building a layer onto a weak layer. Again, that's a problem because all of this is then going into secondary and university years. So unless the problem gets resolved at the preschool years, we're going to have our challenges up ahead. So preschool and managements of preschool need to look at the teacher training as well.
Ajit, when she's trying to build this teacher training course or this vision for CA, what's your input from your growing up years as a sports person and the role that education really played in your life? Do you want sports to just be that one PE period that we all had and got scrapped when we had to do an extra lesson of math, like how Fatima said? Is that coming out of dining table conversation?
Yeah, I think so. No, I mean, it's got to be a bit more than that because we are in a different world to what we grew up in. So it's got to be more than a PE period. That's what because there are, I don't know, it's again up to the school. I mean, at home, okay, you can push your kid or you can help him, go to different stuff, or at least I try and, Raj naturally likes football. He used to play cricket before, doesn't thankfully now, so I because he got tired of my coaching, I think. No, he plays football, and I try and take him to golf when I can. I just want him to play as many different sports as I can, and
Exposure.
yeah, at home it's a lot easier to do, but when you spend 8 or 9 hours in a school,
Right.
if it comes from there, it's a lot easier for the kid to spend that time. And yeah, I mean, of course, education's got its place. I was playing cricket a lot of the time in school, but my parents were very clear that you've got to finish your education as well, because yes, you're doing well at sport and you're learning certain things, or you might go on and make it a career, but education's just as important, and which you learn
is
later,
true.
which is absolutely true. You
You still
sometimes
think so that, I mean, you need to have education and sports education? You think kids today, with the kind of attention span and the bandwidth that they have, the number of years that they have to be in that?
But Mansi, that's again where the point that we were discussing the other day, that sport actually brings in better concentration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Time management. It also gives kids the downtime. These are overexposed kids. Mansi,
Yeah,
we've discussed it.
absolutely.
They've got information coming from various quarters. So unless they're able to get some downtime, it won't work productively. And I think that's the point Ajit is also trying to make, the balance. It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
They need functional skills. They will need math. Math wasn't my strong point in school, evident, but I use it today for those financial spreadsheets, and I have actually thanked Ms. Hakim for drilling those sums into my head. That's a base. You need it. Whether you become a chartered accountant or a CFO, it doesn't matter.
it's the same as whether you actually go on and become a professional sportsman or not.
Yeah.
It's the other side of it. So no, both are equally important, and it'll give you options further in life about what you can actually take up.
Say, for example, with a math period, we actually, in our teacher training, we actually taught angles
Right.
and fractions,
Yes.
just using a game of cricket and getting the teachers to play the game of cricket.
Yeah.
So a math teacher who's never held a bat in her hand was actually standing there and working out angles, and then realizing, if it's so difficult for me to understand, but it's so easy for the child. So then it's actually made my job easier, because I was, trying 6 periods and they were in La La Land. When I did it through cricket, they got it, and IPL is a great time to do it.
It's kind of intimidating for me as a parent to believe that the age these kids are going to grow up in, there's going to be a lot of role that I'm going to play as a parent, right? Because it's not going to be, okay, you know, unlike the years that we were growing up, that okay, you're studying, you get your marks, your parents are happy and stuff. Today it's going to be a different generation, because it's going to be very collaborative. Parents, education, in a way it's a three-dimensional figure, right? The institute, the child, and of course the parent. What's the role of the parent?
So I call it the Bermuda Triangle. It's quite honestly, like she's mentioned, a collaborative effort, because you're not actually working with, again, rote learning or knowledge. You're actually adding on to experiences and exposure, and you can't believe that the school has all the answers. So you as the parent have a role to play in also creating those stimulations or experiences. Assuming you've picked a school and the school doesn't have X, Y, and Z, it's your role as a parent to then provide that. And like Ajit said, exposure, but not turning it out into a career option. We are micromanaging. So as parents today, we have a lot more conversations with fellow parents, and I think that half knowledge leads to more confusion. And then we get anxious, and then we get hyper. So I think the role of the parents is also to take a step back and say, okay, everything cannot be achieved at age 3. There is a time and place for everything, and patience as parents is going to be critical in this era, because these kids are not going to follow. And if you want them to take risks, you're going to have to allow them some freedom.
Fatima, you mentioned that we're talking about progressive schools, progressive boards. We're talking about the top 1 percentile in this country. While if you speak to a lot of the international schools, colleges, a large part of non-metros or not the top 1 percentile are really disrupting school admissions or corporate jobs or stuff like or sports for that matter. the underdog is really somebody who's not your conventional hero, if I was to put it. So how is it that we're still we're talking of all of this, but there's somebody out there who's still putting in whichever infrastructure or whichever school board you give him, he's still going to be the, he's still going to be the performer.
We actually do work for a school in Panchkula, and the PR manager told me the same thing. Like you said, he said, you know what, I cracked all the spell bees. I went abroad. I just couldn't cope with the metro child, because the metro child just by default had a lot more exposure. They were able to take more risks because they had a little more freedom and their parents allowed them or their schools allowed them. Here we were limited resources, so you try and take the safer route. So I think that's where again teacher training comes in. And Mansi, to be fair and to be honest, the metros are not receiving the teacher training as progressively as perhaps tier 2 and tier 3. So that actually tells us that we're in a safe spot, because the chunk of the population is in that 99, is not in that 1%.
Right.
So there is already a rapid improvement there. They are talking about life skills, they're talking about sports integration, perhaps a little more than the metros. The metros are still playing it safe and saying, let's go with the marks, because the marks means legacy. The disruption is already taking place in the 99%. So there will be a lot more players coming in to help them, to handle, and honestly it's mindset.
And the second benefit, where we said that you have two different sort of children, both at say a different place in their careers, do you think then education will play a big role, or the approach to education will play a big role in the roadblocks that they may face ahead?
I think so. I still feel that the basic skills and the foundation will it's like when you gain knowledge, what you do with that knowledge is important. So we spoke about application. That foundation does give you the ability to apply and problem solve and troubleshoot and adapt. So that foundation is non-replaceable. It's just what kind of foundation we're talking about is the real question. And also there's something called innate. The school is not the only one. We discussed the Bermuda Triangle. It also comes from the family. You play an important role as parents in defining that child. So it's all forces combined that will allow this child to then be differentiated. And if they're passionate enough, and I think Colvin Harris said that in our conclave, Mansi, his question was, his topic really was, does a PhD guarantee success? And I love what he said. He said, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm just going to tell you that it's passion, hard work that Ajit spoke about, that actually defines not just the degree. So that's going to be important. And where does that come from? Some foundation that has been created.
Padma, you were saying that you've obviously encountered parents who are very vested in the result and their approach. What's your experience been?
Yeah, so they feel that they've put their child in a particular class, and that class should lead to some certification. Or then, I've heard parents tell 5-year-olds that, we've put so much money in this class, now make something out of it. One, it's that 5-year-old did not ask you to do it. You did it because it's helping you look good, or perhaps with your right intentions you wanted him to get that exposure. But it cannot be about achievement. It has to be about the fact that even if nothing evolves from that particular class and he's disinterested or she does not want to take on the violin or swimming, she still picked up some skills like Ajit was talking about, and it cannot just be about results. It also has to be about fun, and childhood should be about that. We're going back to saying bring the childhood back.
Every time that we're putting our children in classes, we're expecting that it's going to lead to something, or it's going to lead to, if you're sending them to 1 hour of cricket class, they have to play for the school team. And I feel like a lot of Indian parents are getting result oriented, which I feel is
just puts too much pressure on the kid as well.
Absolutely.
The fun shouldn't go out early on.
Right.
Your first few years, apart from the learning bit, at least talking from the sports perspective, there has to be fun.
Right.
If you are finding it a chore to go to the ground to play cricket or play football, then you're just doing it because someone else wants you to do it, not because you want to do it.
I'm just going to conclude with competition and collaboration. What's going to be more important in the 21st century?
So for me, clearly, it's collaboration. It has to be. It's uniting forces, and I think at the cost of repeating myself, I say that we can only do it collaboratively. I mean, individually we'll do it. Join forces, get there quicker, get there more efficiently, get there with a little more innovation. Competition works up to a point, brings out the best in you and all that, but again, the future will belong to those who can unite forces.
Oh, IPL is a great example. I think
Yeah.
in collaboration. I mean, till the IPL had not started, there were guys who I played against all my life, didn't speak a word to them. I mean, some of them are really good friends of mine, and players from different countries. So, and you learn so many things being in the same dressing room. So, yes, competitiveness is there once you cross that white line, but because your thoughts are now integrated, or you're exposed to their way of, or their cultures, or how they approach the game, it can only help.
But it's still about making it to that top squad, right? I mean, it's a team effort, but you have to still make your spot in the squad. So was it like hard between that competition and collaboration?
No, I mean, it's hard because, of course, you put in all that work, but again, at least from my perspective, you reached there because you enjoyed doing what you did, and then it didn't feel like a job. It just happened naturally, and you just keep improving because you enjoy being out there every time. So it's hard work, obviously, to reach the top for anything you do, but you enjoy it even more if you put in the work.
Great. Now we're gonna play a small game with you guys.
Ooh.
Like, I hope you know which side you're holding, so you don't mess up. Okay, so let's begin. Has Ajit changed diapers? You can't see her answer. You have to.
Oh, really?
You have,
So I have to answer as well, or?
You have to both answer in tandem.
Oh, sorry.
So if you have, I may ask something about her.
Okay.
So you
okay,
both
cool.
will.
I thought you said Ajit. Sorry.
both will answer. Okay. Has he got upset over your son losing a match, especially when it's just about? Okay, well done. Okay. Is Fatima hyper-parent?
Oh, not bad.
So while you're
She's better though. She's better now. She was hyper.
Okay.
She's much
So
better.
the good thing is the real answers are coming out while you're both agreeing. Has Fatima ever come and tell you that she wants to change your son's school teacher? Come on, guys, answer. Has to be spontaneous. Okay.
You do know he's still in school, right?
Yeah.
and he needs to
Yeah,
be
he
in
needs
some
to-
school. I just spoke
he needs to
about
go back to the school as
platform
well.
for education is important.
Okay. Have you ever hid a bar of chocolate from your child and eaten it alone? Seriously?
Yeah, we're amazing, right?
Yeah. I thought I had once, but no, I think I shared it with him.
He wouldn't.
Okay. Have you ever? Okay. No. Sorry. Have you ever lost a match on purpose when playing with your son? Well done. It's like perfect parents. Okay.
No.
Have you ever missed your son's birthday party, important occasion, because of a match? Has he ever done that? Lots of times. Okay. Has Fatima ever said that she's had too much of sports in her house?
Oh no.
No, she's just tired of me watching golf now.
Okay.
She said I thought it was done.
Yeah, that's actually the next one. Have you ever switched off the TV, Fatima, when an important match, be it golf, cricket, football, anything is going on? No, don't change your answer.
She's just screamed at me to
Oh,
shut
okay.
it. She's not shut it.
Not shut it. Okay. Have you ever fought because he watches too many games, or he's out for too many practice sessions, or plays too much sport? Yay, we got a
We got
different
one,
one.
Wouldn't call it a fight. but
Let's do
she-
a zoom on that reaction.
Not practice never. If I watch too much golf.
Yeah, because that's now very boring. They're just men walking around.
Okay. Have you yawned in Fatima's events when she talks about education? Have you ever told your friends over beer that she's going to change the world? No.
No, I don't know. I might have. I won't remember.
Then you have to put up yes.
Okay. Yes.
I want to know.
And I said no.
Okay, good one. Alright, there we are. We're kind of done.
Wow, we're amazing parents. Thank you, Mansi.
Great, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish you guys lots of success and lots of success to your son. Best wishes always. And thank you so much for spending time with us.
Oh, thank you.
Mansi. It's been a
Pleasure.
pleasure.